Hello, everybody. Coming to you today from my sister's house with a little bit of a different background here. We're trying to be safe, but I'm honestly still pretty worried about it. But like my family, I think was gonna have this holiday anyway. So whether or not I went, and honestly, I'm the most isolated probably out of all of them. So it probably wouldn't be my fault. But yes, very very scary time for me here, and I'm sure for you guys there. Even though we did keep it small, I only had about 6 people, but still, I hope you guys had a nice Thanksgiving, and maybe we're able to see some people digitally or otherwise. But yes, we are back now, and we really are kind of entering the final stretch of the semester here. I've said many times throughout the semester that I do take late work, so I would just remind you here that if you're missing anything and you still want to get some credit for it, you can still submit stuff and definitely get probably most of the credit. Um, and of course, reach out to me, send me an email if you have any specific questions about assignments that you're working on. I want to introduce a couple of new assignments today, actually. I posted, if you look on this week's Moodle, where I guess you'll have to be if you're seeing this video, um, I've posted the descriptive assignment and our final essay, the drama essay. Because, as we know, today, the 30th, I am looking for our poetry essays to be submitted. But again, if you submitted this like a day or two late, would that hurt your grade a lot? No, you might lose a couple of points. But I always tell students that for my class, at least the way that I grade, if your options are like hand in, an essay that's rushed and maybe not as good as it could be, but get it on time, or maybe you're a couple of days late, but the essay is better, I always say probably you're better off submitting a little bit late with a better essay. That'll probably get you the better grade in the grand scheme of things. So I am looking for the poetry essay today, the 30th, Monday. So yes, now I want to talk about these other assignments. So the descriptive assignment. This one is not an essay. The descriptive assignment is not an essay. If you look on the sheet, it's only 500 words long that I'm asking for, which is, like 2 pages maybe. That one falls under, if you remember back to when I explained the grading system at the beginning of the semester, that assignment falls under the small writing assignments, which I think we're going to try to do one more of those by the end of the semester. I normally would have assigned them sooner, but I'm juggling everything to make the course, work, just like you guys are. So, I feel all of you on that, and same things are happening for me. So, I hope we can all cut each other some slack. But yes, the descriptive assignment, not an essay. That's what I want to tell you. It's a small writing assignment. Approach it more as kind of a writing exercise than like a formal essay. Like you don't need an introduction or conclusion or research or anything like that. It's just kind of a personal writing assignment. And I think the directions make a lot of sense. It asks you to talk about, to describe, that's why I have descriptive, to describe a place that you associate with your childhood. So the real thing that I want us to do here is just kind of try out the sorts of descriptive writing. I think this one is really kind of supposed to go more with the short story essay. I know I'm late on these. But if you think back to the short story essays and how we talked about a setting and creating a mood and a tone and all that kind of stuff, basically I'm asking you to do something like that, to describe some place you associate with your childhood and to sort of try to create a mood or a vibe, that I associate with this place. So that's the descriptive assignment. Again, not a formal essay, just kind of a writing exercise. Okay, and then we have this drama essay, which is going to be our third and final, full-length formal essay with research and everything. So obviously this one's going to be about a play. Most of this video, I want to talk about what's unique about a play, just like we did with poetry, right? Short stories, I think we were kind of used to, so I didn't talk about it as much there. But we talked a lot about what's unique about poetry and how do we have to approach it differently and all these kinds of things. So I want to cover some of the same stuff as it regards plays. Let me say first that the play that we're going to be reading is M. Butterfly by David Henry Hwang. I've posted the entire play on the Moodle page. You should be able to download it. It's kind of a big file, so I don't know if that's going to give you a problem. But yeah, I scanned it. You can download it. I think you can also just find this on Google. If you just type in like M. Butterfly PDF, excuse me, say a fried chicken sandwich here, I apologize. If you type in like M Butterfly PDF, it should come up and you can find an online version of it as well. But I would definitely start reading that play as soon as you can and try to read as much of it as you can. I think I put on there to read Act 1 for homework for next week, but it would be in your interest to read as much of the play as you have time to do. It's a little bit long. So that's one thing. If you were annoyed by like how short the poems were and like trying to write an essay when you had so little to work with in terms of length of the poems and number of words, well, this is a little bit longer, right? If you open that file, I think it's something like 60 pages. But I do have like the copyright info and like the cover and stuff, so it's not actually that long. And the thing that we know about plays, they read a lot more quickly than a short story or something, right? Because just think about it. Short story, it's all paragraphs, very dense. Play, dialogue, right? Which is something that I want to talk about here is being unique about a play. You just have the list of dialogue, right? It just kind of goes from one character to another. So that makes it read much faster. So don't be intimidated that it's like 60 pages or whatever. I think it's a good play. I think it's fun. There's some experimental stuff. There's some like breaking the fourth wall. So I think it's interesting too. I think it is worth your attention. I try not to waste your time with this stuff. Enough teachers have wasted your time as it is, I think. Uh, but yes, I want to talk about dialogue, right? So not only does the dialogue make the play read faster, but it's also a big difference, especially compared to short stories, because the thing with short stories is that you're in the character's head the whole time, right? You know their inner thoughts, you know their motivations, you know their intentions, you know why they're doing what they're doing. And sometimes you just have that for the main character, sometimes you have it for multiple characters. In a play, you do not have this. You do not have the direct access to the character's thoughts, except in the form of like an aside. You know, if you remember like Shakespeare, they do us asides where like a character turns to the audience and they're like, I'm lying about this, or something like that. Um, and in this play, like I said, there is some breaking the fourth wall, so we do get that. But you don't get it just by virtue of the genre. You don't get direct access to the character's thoughts. So like we have to pay a lot more attention to the dialogue, and be picking up on things like sarcasm or irony or like when a character's lying or all this. Because yeah, again, we don't have access to their thoughts, so we don't necessarily know all that stuff. So we have to be like I would say very engaged with the dialogue. Like plays are meant to be performed. I know I said with poetry that poetry like was meant to be read out loud. But plays even more so than that are meant to be performed. Like the thing that we're reading, this like script or screenplay or whatever you want to call it, it is meant ultimately to be performed. Um, and like so when we're reading it, we have to like have that in our mind in terms of the dialogue, but also the next thing I wanted to get to, which is stage direction. That's a big thing. Like, and a lot of the plays that you've read before might not have used stage direction that much. Like Shakespeare doesn't really have a lot of stage direction. Um, I think I think it's because when Shakespeare was writing plays, it was more just for his troupe to use. Like he wanted to put the plays on himself. So I don't think he had to write as much stage direction. I don't think he was envisioning, people 500 years from now necessarily wanting to put his plays on. So like if you think of Shakespeare plays, they'll just say things like, they fight if there's like a sword fight, and then it's like he dies if someone's dying. But it's not that descriptive. It doesn't tell you that much. And yeah, there's really isn't a lot of it. So maybe this is something we have to adjust to if that's the kind of play that you're more used to. In M Butterfly, there's a lot of stage direction, and the thing about it is that you have to like really be engaged with it to like and you have to really try to imagine the stage direction happening. So if it says that a character says a line meekly or something or quietly, you've got to imagine them like saying it quietly. And it's a challenge. It's kind of an imaginative challenge on our part where it's like we kind of have to be not only the audience but also kind of like the director. Like you have to imagine all these things as if they was occurring in front of you. And I think I had a video about this towards the beginning of the semester about like being an engaged reader and like how reading is like a kind of meditation almost, where you need to empty your mind and just kind of be absorbing whatever it is you're reading and really playing it out in your head. And that if you feel yourself like starting to think about something else or your mind starts going to another place, you have to realize that's happening. You have to say, oh okay, hold on a second. Now I'm not paying attention. I'm thinking of something else, and then kind of recenter your focus. So I mentioned that again here because with what I'm saying about plays is that you have to again be imagining all the things happening. That if it says someone raises their hand as they say a thing, you have to actually imagine that happening. And this is kind of a challenge, because it's easy to just sort of scan the page and like get the dialogue. But if we're just doing that, we can miss a lot of things about the character's intention because again, we don't know what's going on in their heads. So we have to be able to see by what they're doing, what they're saying, the way that they're saying it, like the tone of voice. excuse me, in these types of things, to be able to really get everything that's happening. Some other stuff that's connected to stage direction, lighting. There's a lot of stuff with lighting in this play where there's like a spotlight on one person or it's like moving around. So it's like when I read a short story, I imagine like the thing happening in real life, you know. But maybe with a play, it is better to imagine like what it would look like on a stage, you know. M Butterfly was a Broadway play. It won the Tony Award in 1988. So that is kind of it would be on like a big fancy stage with all these different lighting fixtures and music as well. That's another thing. It has a lot of music. I'll explain this more in another video, but M Butterfly is very interested in an older opera called Madame Butterfly. That had a lot of opera songs, so there are like some opera type music, and I think I'm gonna post a video so you guys can kind of hear what that sounds like at one point. So there's music like that. There's more like classical music, and then there's also like traditional Chinese music. So again, it's the same thing where when you read that stuff, you have to do your best to like imagine this really happening, imagine the sounds coming out of the speakers and everything like that. And also connected to this is the setting, right? At the beginning of a scene, it'll usually have some stage direction, just explaining like, you know, what the setting is, if there's furniture, who's in the room, what the room looks like, what the you know, just basically like all the things that would be on the stage to like dress it up while all of this is happening. So yeah, I just really, before we start reading the play, want to try to get us in the correct mind frame so that we can enjoy this, maybe at least a little bit, but also so that we can really follow along with what's happening and make sure that we totally get it, you know? So I just think that you have to be engaged with a play in a way that we are not as used to as we are with short stories, you know? So hopefully now that we're kind of being intentional about thinking about stage direction and looking at it this way, it can make it a little bit easier. And on this note, I want to talk about some of the other stuff that I have for you to do this week on Moodle. So I have a sample kind of passage posted from this play called Endgame by Samuel Beckett, not Adventures Endgame, definitely not. Something very different, much better, I would say. But I'm using this just as kind of like a sample. If you remember how we looked at the poem The Bells at the beginning of the poetry unit, just to kind of show us like something about how poetry works, I was trying to make a point about rhythm and rhyming and stuff. I'm trying to do something similar here by looking at this play Endgame. We're not writing about Endgame. Don't write about it. Don't think too much about it. It's very weird and very confusing, and it's fun. Whatever. Don't worry too much about it. The main reason that I want you to take a look at this is because of what it does with stage direction, and because I think it shows us something about how necessary it is to approach reading a play the way I'm trying to talk about here. So when you open up, so first you're going to read the excerpt from Endgame, which is like, I don't know, like 3 pages of straight stage direction, and then it gets into some dialogue. But you're going to read that, and then I have some questions for you based on just like what your experience was reading it and how the stage direction affected you and like what you were imagining as you were reading the stage direction and stuff. And then I have a video of kind of like a low budget production of this, but they do all the stage direction, so I think it's useful. Do not watch this entire video, the whole video. It's the entire play. It's like an hour or more or whatever. Don't watch all of that. I think I wrote it down on the Moodle page, but you can start at the 1 minute mark and go to like the 7 minute mark, and that should be all that you need. So basically, you're going to read this and get your own experience of just looking at the words on the page, and then you're going to watch it being performed. And I'm just trying to impress on you, like, how unique of a thing it is to read a play and how important it is to really imagine all the stage direction and not just kind of like scan it and let it go by. Again, if you're going to have any fun with this at all, and also probably to help you get a better grade when it comes time to write the essay, I think you need to approach it like this. So yeah, you're going to watch the video of the people performing the thing from Endgame, and then I have another set of questions about like what the difference was between reading it and watching the video. I think that makes sense. I hope it does. Let me know if it doesn't. Please get in touch. And I will wrap this video up here, and I will talk to you later.